I am unmuted. Right. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Yesterday we began the new parak, the exciting parak of Parak HaKones Nun Hey Amid Beis.
Okay.
We left off a few lines from the bottom, the top wide line. Tanya, that's where we left off to really kick off a new sugya. Today is not a terribly long daf, so let's get started.
And away.
Yeah, so a little bit of a digression of what we've been doing, but it's an awesome daf nonetheless. So Tanya, Rabbi Yeshua says, Arba'a Dvarim, ha'osos on patim b'dinei adam v'chayav b'dinei shemaim. There are four things, we'll go through the list in a minute, where even though there's hezek, if you do them, you are patim b'dinei adam v'chayav b'dinei shemaim. Rashi points out right in the beginning of the sugya that it's kasavar grama b'nizak and patros. These are all going to be cases of grama, and therefore you'll be patim b'dinei adam, you'll be chayav b'dinei shemaim. The eluhin. What are these four cases? So the first one is kind of the tie-in because it's similar to our mission. So the first one is right? Let's say your neighbor's got his animals in something, and you knock down a wall. You don't let the animal out; you just knock down the wall, and the animal goes out and does whatever damage. You are patur b'din adam v'chayav b'din shemaim. Again, it's only a grumma. Second case, let's say a fire is coming, ravaging the neighborhood, and in theory, it should miss your friend's stuff, but you kind of move your friend's stuff into the path of the fire. Again, you're not causing the damage. The fire was there, but you are kind of a grum. And the Gemara is going to go through all these cases. That's case number two. Case number three, let's say you go over to a person and you hire him to give false testimony. Again, you're not causing the damage, right? It's the other guy that's really doing their work, but you are hiring him, and therefore, again, you're patur medinei adam b'chayav b'dinei shemaim. The fourth case, the hayodea eidos l'chaveru ve'enu me'ed lo. Let's say I have something, I know testimony, I could come to court and help my friend out. I know who did whatever it was, and I decide to stay home. That's the fourth case. So again, four cases that Rabbi Yeshua says, I'm patur medinei adam b'chayav b'dinei shemaim, and the Gemara is going to go through each one of the cases now. Amar Mar. Let's go with the first case. Again, the case was where the animal was locked up. I knocked down a wall and I kind of let the animal out. If this wall was a kosel bari, so why are you saying I'm patur medinei adam? And the way Rashi and Tosfos explain is patur medinei adam sounds like I'm patur for like everything. So Rashi says, like, I understand you're patur from whatever damage the animal does. That's the grama. But shouldn't I at least be chayav for the wall that I just damaged? And it sounds like patur medinei adam. I'm patur. Why am I patur? If this was a healthy wall and I knocked down my friend's healthy wall, so of course I should be chayav at least for the wall.
You say you're chayav, you own it, and you didn't put a proper fence on there, you're chayav.
Yeah.
Here it's as if you didn't, your grandmother too, you didn't let the animal out, you just not.
Well, there's a big difference between your animals. You have a chiyuv to watch your animals. We're talking.
Yeah, you knock down the friend.
This is your friend.
I'm saying you knock down the fence. You're causing the same damage that the person who owns it is causing the same. It's your fault that they have damage caused.
Yeah, but you could hear more of the story of grama when it's not my animal. When it's my animal, I have a responsibility to do everything I can to make sure my animal doesn't hurt anyone. I'm dealing now with John Dress's stuff, right? So I am just damaging Dress's wall. Now Dress is going to be chayav when his animal does something. Well, that gets into the chayav dinei shemayim stuff. Clearly, you're doing averos over here. Clearly, you got a daven. I'm not so sure if it's literal hezek. I'm not sure. I don't know, Alan. Are we good?
Yeah.
So the Gemara says. So the Gemara says, "Ela b'kosel ru'ua." It must be that we're dealing with a situation where the kosel anyway was ru'ua, it was dilapidated, right? It was some sort of weakened wall, and therefore it was going to probably break anyway, and therefore you're not chayav for the wall. So you're not chayav for the damage that the animals do, because that's a grama, and you're not chayav for the wall itself because it was a kosel ru'ua. Okay, next case. Amar Mara Kopev Komaso Shel Kavero B'Fnei Adeleka. Again, there was a fire that was coming through the town. I moved my friend's stuff into the path of the fire. If you're going to tell me that now that I've moved it, it's just the regular path of the fire, and a ruach matsuya is going to consume this guy's stuff. Again, you're really parsing this. Why is it even a grumble? Why is it any different if I set my friend's thing on fire or I literally move it right into the path of the fire? That can't be, right? Should be chayiv dinei adam as well. Meaning, even if I move it into this path, it's not a given that the fire is gonna reach it. It's just maybe a little bit more likely. It would still require a ruach she'ena matsuya. That's the case where we say, all right, I'm only a grumma. Meaning I haven't caused the damage. I made it a little bit more likely, but I still needed to like a few other factors to work my way in order for this damage to occur. Rav Ashi gives another answer, and he says, this is a real Bava Kama answer. He says, Taman itmar. Imagine a fire is coming. It's about to consume my friend's thing. Now, I'm not the one who did the fire, right? So imagine there's Ruvain's fire, Shimon's stuff. Shimon's stuff is about to be destroyed in Ruvain's fire, and therefore Ruvain's about to owe Shimon money. Comes along Levi, right, me, and what do? I cover Shimon's stuff. Now that it's Taman is putter by Aish. So now I really messed over Shimon, right? Because now Ruvain doesn't owe Shimon any money. Because the stuff that his fire destroyed was Taman. That's where I'm putter b'dinei adam chayav b'dinei sham. I only did a grump. I didn't cause any damage. I just covered the guy's stuff. But by me covering the guy's stuff, now Shimon is not going to get his payment from Ruvain, and that's the case. That's how Rav Ashi understands this case of fire. Third case, Amar Mar Hasokar Eidei Sheker. What's the case of me hiring Eidei Sheker? If I'm suggesting that someone owes me money, and then I hire Aiden to testify that someone owes me money, so Mamono Bayishlumi, like I'm a ganav. At this point now, I have someone else's money, right? So of course, I have to pay him his money back. Well, why am I patra b'dinei adam? Ella lechavre. So what we'll have to say is that I'm uninvolved. Again, this is a court case between Reuven and Shimon. I just go and I help one of the parties. I hire false Aiden, and therefore, whichever party I helped, I was only some sort of grum. I didn't really hurt the guy that had to pay via time, and therefore I'm patra b'dinei adam and I'm chayiv b'dinei shemayim. In the fourth case, let's say I know testimony, but I refuse to give it. So again, b'mayaskina. And now we're going to flip the script a little bit. Up till now, we've been trying to understand the case from the b'dinei adam perspective. Why am I not chayiv b'dinei adam? Now we're going to go the other way. We're going to say, why am I putter, or why is it even a chiddush that I'm chayiv b'dinei shemayim? So we're going to say, what is this case of me knowing testimony and not giving it? Elaim of a betray. If I'm going to take part, if there's another aide that knows it as well. So if I show up, I will make two aidim. So pshita, diaraitu, of course I'm chayav dinei shemaim. This is the pasuk in the Torah. It says imlo yagid b'nasav. No, of course I'm going to do an avera. If I know testimony, there's another aide willing to testify with me, and I refuse to show up. That's a lav in the Torah, right? Ella bechad. Rather, the case needs to be where there's no one that's willing to come to Besdin. No one knows I was the only witness. And now, if I don't show up, I'm not over this lav, but still I kind of messed up my friend. Why? And this is going to be relevant in the Hemshech of the Gemara. What happens if there's an Eid Echad, right? So there's an Eid Echad. Someone says, Reuven says that Shimon owes your money, and there's an Eid Echad. Shimon doesn't necessarily have to pay, but Shimon is chayav a shvuah, right? So if I stay home, then Shimon doesn't pay anything at all. If I come and I give my testimony, now Shimon's chayav a shvuah. Now he still might deny. He still might swear falsely. And then I haven't really done any damage to Reuven by me, not showing up. But by me not showing up, that means Shimon doesn't even need to make the shvuah, and that's why I'm chayiv b'dinei shemayim. I'm patur b'dinei adam, but I'm chayiv b'dinei shemayim. So again, Rabbi Yeshua gave 4 cases. In each 4 of the cases, I was patur b'dinei adam, v'chayiv b'dinei shemayim. The Gemara says, "V'su lekar." Are these the only 4 cases of patur b'dinei adam, v'chayiv b'dinei shemayim? We have 5 more cases. You look at the parentheses. We have a simin, ha'oseh, besam, shaleach, chavero, and nishbar. Right? These are 5 cases. Most of them we've actually seen in Bava Kama, and there's another one that we saw in Gittin as well. So these are these 5 cases where we also are patur b'dinei adam v'chayav b'dinei shemayim. The first one is ha'oseh malacha b'mei chatas paras chatas patur b'dinei adam v'chayav b'dinei shemayim. So we know there's a halacha when it comes to the paraduma and the mei chatas. They are not allowed to do any work with the mei chatas. And the Gemara in Gittin, I think apparently it's a Gemara later on in Bava Kama as well. But the Gemara in Gittin talks about what if I do if I do something with someone else's mechatas, apparently it's probably pretty valuable. And if I do work with it, I now make it so that it cannot be used as the mechatas. But as Rashi tells us, this is a hezek she'eno nicker. And according to the Amanda Amar, the hezek she'eno nicker shmei hezek, you would be pater medine adam v'chayev b'dinei shemayim. Right, so this is another example of pater medine adam v'chayev b'dinei shemayim. But we even have another case. Hanosein sam hamabes b'fnei behemas chavero pater medine adam v'chayev b'dinei shemayim. If I put some sort of poisonous food in front of my friend's animal, and my friend's animal eats it, and then he gets damaged, I'm pater medine adam v'chayev b'dinei shemayim. The Gemara explained not too long ago in Bava Kama that I guess this is something that animals should have known to stay away from. I don't know exactly what the example is, but again, we've been dealing in the Masech with some smart animals, right? So I guess this is something that animals should appreciate as harmful. Therefore, if the animal goes and eats the Sam HaMaves, I am pater medine adam, but I'm going to be chayev b'dinei shemayim. V'ha'ika, we have another case. Hasholeach es ha'be'era b'yad chereshot v'katan, pater medine adam v'chayev b'dinei shemayim. This is the case if I put fire in the hands of a chereshot v'katan, and then damage ensues. I am pater medine adam v'chayev b'dinei shemayim. This got involved with a very complicated machlokas of Yochanan and Reish Lakish of Isho Mishum Chitzo, Isho Mishum Mamono. Each one had to explain their case a certain way. Maybe I only gave a coal, it wasn't like a legit flame. Or Rav Yochanan said, even if I gave a legit flame, it's because it's the Katan is kind of acting on its own. But either way, if I put this Aish, whatever it is, into the hands of a Chereshot of a Katan, the Gemara said, I'm pater medine adam, the chayev b'dinei shemayim. V'ya'iko even have a fourth case. Hamav es chavero. If I frighten my friend, so I shout in his ear, I don't touch him, but I shout in his ear, and therefore I cause some sort of damage. I am pater medine adam, and I'm chayev b'dinei shemayim. Last case, via Ika, and the fifth case, something like that, or something like that. Via Ika, the fifth case would be nishbara kado b'rishus harabim. Let's say a guy's walking and he drops his cod or whatever it is, and it breaks. Below salt, he doesn't clean it up. Nafla gamlo, your camel falls and dies. Below Amida, and I don't move it out of the way. Rav Meir Machayev. Rav Meir says you are Chayev. He holds that Niskal is a Poshea, and therefore you gotta, you're a Poshea, and you gotta clean your stuff up and all that. Chayev Bezeichen, sorry. The Chachamim say, Pater Medine Adam Chayev B'dinei Shemayim. Again, what was the point? So we brought 5 cases, and we went through them very, very quickly. What was the point? Rabbi Yeshua opened the sugya by saying, I have 4 cases where you're Chayev B'dinei Adam, Pater Medine Adam Chayev B'dinei Shemayim. And the Gemara is saying 4 cases. Got 5 more cases that we just brought, whatever. There's a lot of cases. What are you focusing on these 4 cases? So the Gemara says, you're absolutely right, there are more. Miha ikatuva, there are more cases. But Bahani, it's Shrichale, I wanted to highlight these 4 cases because Ma would say, B'dinei Shemayim Nami Lo Lachai. Kamash Malan. Each one of the 4 cases, the Chiddush is that you might have had a Havamina. That not only are you pater medine Adam, you're even pater medine Shemayim. And that's why we had to highlight these 4 cases. And we'll go through each one of the 4 and explain why there would have been a Havamina that you would be pater medine Shemayim. The first one was if I break down the wall of where my friend's animal was staying. And remember, we said that this has to be dealing with a coastal ru'ah. It's not a good wall, it's a bad wall. So Ma'udisema Kavan to Lemistrate Kai, my Avid. The bottom line is, this guy had a responsibility to break down his own wall. It was a danger. So this guy had to break down his own wall. And therefore, by me breaking down his wall, not only should I be pater for the wall that I broke down, but you would think, and you would think that, listen, this is really his responsibility to do. He should have done it. I'm doing it for him. I'm doing him a favor. He's got to know. He's got to watch his animal. So therefore, what was the second case? The case where I move my friend's stuff into the path of the fire. Nami Maudisema. What would the Havamina have been that I should be pater medine Shemayim? Lema mi haviyadana the asiruch she'ena matzuya. Remember, we established the case that it wasn't clear that it was in the direct path of the fire, that a regular wind would take it into the stuff. It required a ruach she'ena matzuya. So maybe I would have a Havamina that because I still needed help from a ruach she'ena matzuya, maybe I'm pater. Exactly. Yeah. So you think maybe I'm pater. Yeah. What about right? What about Rav Ashi? You said the case is where I just covered my friend's stuff. Right. That's why the guy Reuven was pater in that case. What about Rav Ashi? So Rav Ashi damar nami tamun id marmau desema an kisui kasisa Maybe the guy can say, listen, I was trying to do you a favor. By me covering your stuff, it makes it that less likely that the fire would even get to it. So therefore, I wasn't you're right. It happens to be now that the fire did get to it, I actually caused you a significant loss because now the guy who was responsible for the fire doesn't have to pay you. But in theory, at the time, I was doing you a favor, right? I was making it less likely for the fire to consume your thing. So Kamash Milan, I am chayiv at least b'dinei shemayim. What was the third case? Asochar ede sheker nami. What if I hire someone to falsely testify in a third-party lawsuit? Ma'u desema lema divrei rav divrei talmud divrei mishomin. Listen, bottom line, I know I hired a false, aide, but that guy's an adult too. You know what I mean? He shouldn't listen to me. So why are you putting it on me? So b'dinei shemayim nami lo l'chayiv kamash milan. And the last one. What about the last case where I know testimony and I refuse to come? We spoke this out that even by me coming, being that I'm the only aide, the most I can do is cause a guy to do a shvuah. So the guy can say, listen, even if I came, who said he's going to admit to the thing? Maybe he'll just lie. And assuming he lies, I didn't cause any damage. So therefore, why should I even be chayav b'dinei shemayim? I didn't necessarily cause the damage. All I did was make a guy not have to swear. But he could have sworn falsely, and then I didn't do any damage at all. So therefore, Kamash Milan, that was Rabbi Yeshua's 4 cases of teaching that in each of these 4 cases, not only are you are patur b'dinei adam, but you are chayav b'dinei shemayim. Moving along in the Mishnah. The Mishnah had a case, and it said, Nifritza b'layla, o shabartzu listim, b'chulei. So what was the case of Nifritza b'layla? I closed my pen correctly. I did what I had to do. Somehow these sheep got out at night, whatever it was. So the Gemara says, Amar Rabba, v'hu shechasra. I'm only going to be patur if these animals dug a burrow like under the fence. And then that's how they got out. So it was almost like a little bit of an onus, right? That's how they got out. Then I'm going to be patur. So again, I closed my door properly. But they got out by digging or whatever they did. That's what I'm going to be patur. Avalo chasra, my chayiv. The Gemara says, but if they didn't dig, I would be chayiv. Hey chidami, what's the case? Ilim b'kosel. If this is a good pen and a healthy pen, and so then kilo chasra my chayiv, my havalei lemavad. Even if they don't dig and do this onus and they just get out some other way somehow. Why would I be chayiv? I did everything I could. I had a good pen. I locked it up properly. They got out. What do you want from me? But why would the case of me being patur have to be where they dug underneath the ground? Ella, because of ru'ah. Rather, you'll tell me that it wasn't a very good pen. It was a kosel ru'ah. And therefore, if they got out regularly, I'd be chayiv because my pen wasn't good. But the Gemara says, kis chasra. But then if that's the case, even if they do ultimately dig, am I patur? Tchilasu b'pshia, v'sofa ba'onesu. This is a case where I was a poshea. I had a pen that had a kosel ru'ah. You're right. In the end, my pshia didn't cause the thing because they ended up digging their way out. But the bottom line is, this is the case of tchilasu b'pshia v'sofa ba'ones. And the Gemara says, ha nicha lamanda amar tchilasu b'pshia v'sofa ba'ones patur. This is all good if you hold that tchilasu b'pshia v'sofa ba'ones, the person is patur. That's the case over here. Ela lamanda amar tchilasu b'pshia v'sofa ba'ones chayiv. But according to the Manda Amar, says that even if there was an onus, but as long as there was a tchilas of pshia, I'm going to be chayiv. How do you explain this case over here? Why is this guy patur, even if the animals ultimately dig their way out? So Ella basnisin bekosel bari. Really, I'll tell you, our Mishnah is dealing with a good, healthy pen. Vafilu lo chasra, and even if the animals didn't dig their way out, still, in the Mishnah's case, you'd be patur. So what was Rabbah talking about? V'chi itmar de Rabbah, and Rabbah's case of when the animals dug out was asefa itmar. He was really talking about a different case in the Mishnah, and the Mishnah said like this: Hanicha b'chama o shemasar charshota b'katan. Let's focus on the nicha b'chama. If you kept them out in the sun all day long, and then at night, right, v'yatza ve'zika, they got out and they did damage. Chayiv. And Amar Rabbah, on that case where I left them in the sun all day, said va'afilu chasra, even if they ultimately dug out and got out bonus, meaning for sure, if they didn't have to dig their way out, they were able to get out some other way, then of course you were a poshea. But even if they got out by means of an onus, and therefore maybe I could be patur, kamash malan, the kula pshia. This is a total pshia. If I left them out in the sun all day long, I almost have to assume they'll do everything they can to get out. In my time up, we'll just read it inside the Amrle, made the Yadas, the cave of the Shafkas Pachama, since you left them out in the heat all day long, called Tatztika de Isla Lemevad, Avda Vinavka. Whatever they can possibly do to get out, they will do, even if that means having to dig a burrow underneath the thing. So it's just not even a case of it's Chlas of Shiv so bonus. This is Kula Pshir. So that was Rava's Chedesh. This word tatztika I've never seen before. Rashi says it means tachbulas, but I saw tachbolas. I saw Art Scroll translates it as tactic. Tatztika means tactic. Either way. So moving along, the next case of the Mishnah was Hotzi'uhu listim chayavim. If the robbers literally took the animals out, the animals are going to be chayav. And we kind of spoke this out yesterday, but the Gemara asked it as a question now. So let's turn the page. Shita. What do you mean? If the robbers pick these things up and take them out, right? Top Rashi, he says Ika Mishicha, right? Because they literally picked them up, they pulled them, right? And they're ganavim, right? So there was a Shina Rishus, you have a Kenyan. So of course it belongs to the listim now. So if it does damages, of course the listim are going to be chayiv, right? So the Gemara says, Lo tricha de kamula ba'apa. They did not actually touch these animals. They positioned themselves in a way where the animals kind of only had one way to go, and therefore, without touching them, they kind of led the animals, to the friend's thing. Therefore, there wasn't a mashicha, there wasn't a kinyan. Therefore, you have a havamina that maybe it wasn't. It shouldn't be the listim. Kamash malan that in this case it's going to be on the listim. They will be chayav through the damage, notwithstanding the fact they didn't actually do a kinyan. Yada Amar Rabba. This is similar to what Rabba Amar Rav Masna once said. Sorry, Yada Amar Rabba Amar Rav Masna Amar Rav. Similar to what Rabba once said in the name of Rav Masna, and then he was quoting Rav. Hamamid behemas chavero al kamas chavero. If you literally lead an animal to your the neighbor's field and the animal eats it, you're going to be chayav. The Gemara says, Mamid. I mean, if you literally lead an animal to their friend's thing, of course you're going to be chayav. No, it must be you didn't literally lead it. You just kind of stood in a way where you kind of only gave the animal one path to go. So Amarle Abai Rav Yosef, Abai said to Rav Yosef, he said, wait 1 second, when you were teaching us over this Kiddush of Rabbah in the name of Rav Masna, that's not how you taught it to us. You didn't say that they positioned themselves a certain way. You said Hakesha Martlan. You said that the halacha was if you hit the animal. So you didn't lead the animal by pulling it, but you hit it. That was why you're chayiv. And once that's the case, the listim nami de kishua. You can really explain our Mishnah the same way. What do we mean when we say the listim are chayiv if they were hotzi yuhu? It means if they hit the animal. And Rashi explains. Now we're doing a bit of a 180. In the question, we said, what's even the chiddush? If listim picked up the animal, they did a mashicha, right? And the answer that we gave was they didn't really do a mashicha because they only kind of led the animal by standing in a certain way. Now we're saying the chiddush is that by hitting it, that constitutes a mashicha. So even though I didn't physically pull the animal, but if I hit the animal, it's the same way as if I did a mashicha, and therefore that's my opinion, and therefore the listim were kona the animals and they're chayiv with whatever damages the animal does. Okay, Masra Laroa. Then the Mishnah said that if the Baal HaBehema gives the behema to a shepherd, nichnas haroa tachta. Right, so we said if you give it to a chershel b'katan, you can't absolve yourself of the responsibility. You can't say, oh, go to the chershel b'katan for payment. That's on you for giving it to a chershel b'katan. But if you gave it to a roa, now you can tell the nizik, listen, go to the roa. It's really on him. So the Gemara says,
Kind of like a showman soccer,
literally where we are about to go. And I will just tell you that tomorrow's daf is really going to be a lot. Tomorrow's daf is really going to be all about the Dalit Shomer. Tomorrow's daf is really an awesome daf. I'm not really working this week, so I have like more time to get ahead. So I feel like I'm like way more prepared than I normally am. So even tomorrow's daf is a fun one. Definitely come. Either way, Masra Laroa, Nichnas Roa Tachta. So we said if you give it to a roa, the roa takes its place. The Mishnah was somewhat cryptic. What does it even mean, tachtav? Tachtav of who? So the Gemara says, Amri. Tachtav deman. What do we mean when we say nichnas tachtav? Ilema tachtav de baal. Maybe you'll say tachtav of the owner, but the baal behema. Maybe you'll say he takes the case of the Baal Behema, but Tanina Chada Zimna. This we already have a brisa, a Mishnah. It says Masru l'shomer chinim l'shov l'nasisachar v'l'socher kulam nichtsu tachas abaylim. We know that anytime if the owner gives the animal to one of the Dalet Shomer, even a shomer chinim, and then the animal does damage, so it's pashut. The Mishnah says that the shomer is the one that's chayav. Why do we need our Mishnah to say that if we gave it to a roa, the roa is going to be chayav? It's just like shouldn't be any worse than any other shomer, right? Ella tachtav de shomer. Rather, this is a new case, and it's really he takes the place of the shomer. So the case would be that the Baal Behema gives it to a shomer, the shomer then gives it to a roa. Now the animal does damage. And the chiddush is that the shomer chinam, or whoever it was, can now say, don't come to me, go to the shomer, go to the roa, right? But the Gemara says, is that true? The shomer kama ipatule legamre. So the shomer chinam can totally absolve himself by just giving it to a roa? That can't be the case, because lema tabi tufta the rava. This should be a kasha on rava. The amar rava shomer shemoser. Shomer shemasar the shomer chayiv. In the case of a shomer that gives it to another shomer, you're going to be chayiv. Rashi explains, and this is going to be very relevant for tomorrow. Anytime a shomer tries to absolve himself, so let's take a simple case of a shomer chinam, right? A shomer chinam is going to be patur for everything except an onus, right? Let's say you give it to a shomer chinam, right? Even if the shomer chinam now wants to say, I don't know, something happened to the thing, it was stolen. And in theory, he's patur. He's not patur. He's also take a shvuah, right? So if the shomer chinam now gives it to someone else, and then someone else claims it was an onus, the original Baal Hapikadon can say to the shomer chinam, listen, I trusted you to take a shvuah. I don't trust this guy to take a shvuah. So therefore, you owe me the money. You can work it out with your other guy. That's between you and him. But you cannot absolve, even if an onus happens, you can absolve yourself if you gave it to someone else. Because I trusted you to take a shvuah, you cannot take a shvuah now. You have no idea what happened to you. You gave it to someone else, right? You can't take a shvuah, therefore you're chayiv. And that's pshat. And Rav is saying, anytime a shomer gives it to another shomer, right, you're going to be chayiv. So how do you explain our Mishnah that way by saying that our Mishnah is talking about a case where the Baal Behema gave it to a shomer and the shomer gave it to a roa? The roa is nichnas tachas the shomer, lema tavi tufta to Rava. Rava says that's not the pshat. If a shomer gives it to another shomer, the shomer is chayiv. So Amar L'cha Rava will tell you our case is a little bit different. Because my masru l'roa, what do we mean when we say masru l'roa? It's lebar zile. It's to the roa's apprentice. To arche, the roa lemimser lebar zile. Because it makes sense that the roa would give it to his apprentice. So just to picture the case a little bit, I have a bunch of sheep. I hire some sort of service, and I say to the shepherd service, you guys are going to be responsible for my sheep. There's an understanding that the guy that I'm contracting with is not going to literally watch my sheep. He's going to subcontract to his guys, right? Therefore, if something were to happen, I can't assume, I can't go straight to my roa and say, you owe me the money. The roa says, listen, you know the understanding. I was going to subcontract this work, and these are good people. These are vetted people. You got to go to the Barzilai, and he's the one that's going to be responsible for your damage. And that this is specifically a case of a roa and the roa's, Barzilai. But in a regular case of a shomer, shemasul l'chomer, you're going to be chayiv. And ika da amri, midiktani masul l'roa, from the fact that the Mishnah even says, masul l'roa, v'loktani masul l'achar, shma mina, my masul l'roa, it's masul l'roa lebarzilai, to orche de roa lemimser lebarzilai. From the fact that our Mishnah says it's the case of a masul l'roa, it sounds like this is the case. It's giving it to a shepherd who gives it to his apprentice. That's the case where it's nichnas tachas, the roa. But in a regular case of a shomer, shemasal l'shomer lo, lema masayele l'rava. This should really be a support for Rava halacha to Amar Rava. Shomer shemasal l'shomer chayiv. But the Gemara says, it's not muchach that way. Ari lo dilma orcha dilma suktani b'wadin la'achar. Maybe the Mishnah is just giving a case that kind of makes sense. We're dealing with sheep. So it would make sense that you give the sheep to a shepherd, and the shepherd gives it to another shepherd. But in a even a regular case of a shomer, shemashu l'shomer, it would be the same halacha of nichnas tach. We'll just stop here. And we'll pick it up tomorrow.